More and more schools are coming together to form what's known as federations. There are two types. Hard federated schools share a single governing body. Soft federations see two or more governing bodies share some responsibilities or delegate some powers within the federation. For governors considering this, what are the challenges and rewards of hard federated governance in both primary and secondary schools?
As two separate governing bodies, the main objective was to bring everybody together. That was my focus. It was difficult, but it started to come together. People's arms opened and fortunately we managed to get a meeting with both schools, both governing bodies, and suddenly everybody's looking at each other around the table thinking, well, nobody's any different than anybody else. We're all in this together.
In this case, the federation was a marriage of convenience. It helped prevent one of two village schools from closing.
I was involved specifically as a parent at Manley School at the time that the supposed amalgamation or closure was put forward, was very actively involved, and then out of that process came the suggestion for federation. I think it's fair to say that we really accepted federation as the least worst option. It was a bit of a shotgun wedding really between the two schools.
It was a very difficult time with high emotions running, but fortunately the proposal of federation, I believed, was an excellent proposal. It was quite a lengthy process, but eventually the papers were signed and accepted, and the governing body was officially formed of Alvanley and Manley Federated Schools.
Both schools were equally represented on the newly created federated governing body, and a single head teacher was employed to lead both schools. The governing body wanted to preserve the character and identity of each school whilst capitalising on shared resources. Numeracy Governor Diane Duff spends time in the classroom to understand how federation works on the ground.
You work across both schools. How are you finding that?
I actually found it absolutely brilliant, particularly from a professional development and also to being part of the school community. Because I'm in both schools, working in both schools, they both work brilliantly together but have both got quite distinct characters. And what one has, the other one might have something different, and between the two of them you get two totally different perspectives. As a teacher, it's excellent because you get extra resources and you get to be part of a small group, great community, but also be part of something bigger that works particularly well.
Spending time in both schools seeing a variety of lessons puts Diane in a better position to give detailed reports to the Federation's Curriculum Committee.
So we've been looking at what knights have to do to be knights and all the jobs that they've got, like rescuing damsels in distress.
It's really nice to see two really different lessons. I really liked the way that you kind of, because I know Manley does a lot of thematic work, you kind of linked in the literacy.
Yeah, that's really important. Yeah, we feel like it's quite important that we do everything we can cross-curricular, really. So it makes complete sense that if they're doing something on castles, knights and dragons, that comes into their maths as best it can.
Obviously, I know one of the schools very well, being a parent governor. I know the other school less well, so it's really important for me to see how that school works. It's really good to see that, how the two schools operate. Okay, welcome to the Curriculum Committee meeting, everyone. I just wanted to feed back, really, what I've seen, which was two fantastic lessons, really, completely different, but two really good lessons. And what was really nice to see was the children being so engaged in their learning.
I think it's very important for the governors, particularly in a federation, to go into both schools. And the reason for that, really, is that the governors are responsible for making decisions for both schools. So they will know their own school very well, but they won't know the other school. And they might be making assumptions. I think that's really important for the staff to know that they are doing that and that they are getting a broader view.
What was nice is to hear both Libby and Jan talking about the benefits of being in a federation, sort of the shared expertise, shared resources.
It is not a decision to be entered into lightly, because although there are huge benefits, it's a lot of hard work federating, and it wouldn't always be such plain sailing as it has been with us getting those people working together so well. You've got to have a very good reason for it.
Federations can and do end in divorce, and governors find that keeping the arrangements under constant review is advisable. Today, the head and the former and current chair of the governing body are discussing progress 3 years after federation.
Well, when you think 3 years ago when I came here, we were thinking about revisiting it in 3 years' time to see if we were going back to 2 separate schools. And I don't think anybody would want to go that way now.
No, definitely.
It's incredibly positive this term, and the way the 2 schools are working together.
The staff generally have been very supportive, and actually you can't do it unless they're signed up to the process.
I think that they're finding tremendous benefits for their professional development. You know, they really enjoy working together. Are there any downsides to federation?
Twice the paperwork.
Twice the paperwork, and it does mean that we have to be incredibly efficient, doesn't it, to keep the meetings to any kind of reasonable length.
We've got a school in each village, and we found a way of doing it which allows us to recruit staff and to run them efficiently and to have 2 great schools.
That seems to have been a successful federation, but there's no standard model for schools joining up. Often the type and motivation for federation will depend on local circumstances. The federation of a pair of secondary schools in Manchester seemed at first to be a case of opposites attract. Ashton-on-Mersey had been rated outstanding in its last 3 Ofsteds, but was struggling to retain members of its senior management team who were seeking new challenges. 7 miles away, Broad Oak School was in need of help. It was in danger of slipping into special measures. The leadership and governance team at Ashton-on-Mersey suggested federating, a leap of faith for all involved.
Ashton was a very successful school. It had very good results. We were just a bit apprehensive. It was a natural thing, really. I think we were naturally apprehensive because we didn't quite know what we were letting ourselves in for. And we were naturally concerned about the effects it had on our school and our pupils. We knew that there was some problems in terms of falling roads at Broad Oak, and we didn't know a lot about Broad Oak, and most of our apprehension was really because we didn't know the school.
The schools retain a head teacher each. A new executive head was appointed, and the schools share a governing body. Phil Costello has been closely involved in the process with a unique perspective as both a teacher and a governor. As a school timetabler, he's also in a useful position to troubleshoot logistical problems as teachers shuttle between both schools.
I'm looking at your timetable now. Does that work well?
I preferred to take a group for 3 days a week because I felt it was more beneficial for the pupils for me to stick with one group of pupils, rather than mix my teaching so that I could be there for all of 1 day a week but then work with a number of different pupils and share that teaching. I didn't feel that was practical across the partnership.
What about the logistical problems of getting to Ashton and getting back and teaching at Broad Oak?
The one day that it does cause a problem is on Wednesday when I finish teaching at lunchtime.
That's it, yeah.
At Ashton, and then I'm teaching immediately afterwards with my year 11s in Broad Oak. So really on that day it takes me 20-25 minutes to get back. I only get maybe 15 minutes of lunch.
Having a teacher governor as a kind of linchpin between the governing body and the school management has been really useful because they give a different insight. He's been very good at being able to articulate for governors some of the aspects that they need to be aware of, but he's also been really valuable in challenging us and asking us the questions and stopping us from getting too carried away, actually. So in the early days, he had a lot of discussions about, well, you know, why should we do this? If we do it this way, there may be a benefit here, but let's just look at it from Ashton's perspective. And he was very good at grounding us back in that.
The chair of governors is obviously a key role. Brian Rigby, formerly chair of Ashton-on-Mersey, took up the challenge of merging and uniting 2 boards into one.
Obviously, we had to persuade the governors that this was the right way to go, because they may feel that they would be diluted, they'd be stretched too far. I made a pledge to governors at both schools that no governor would lose a position on the governing body. We had to restrict the numbers to 20, that is what the regulations say, but we could increase that by associate governors. So in actual fact, we've got 27 governors, which will go down to 20 through natural wastage.
They believe that what makes a successful federation is schools being able to retain the best parts of their ethos and character. The Chair of Governors meets each head regularly as part of this process.
Everything all right?
Yeah, superb, thanks.
Good. Andy, I was at a meeting the other day. I think perhaps we could start to look at community cohesion and diversity.
You had suggested an idea about potentially a community cohesion governor, given its importance in the new framework. I don't know whether that's still in your mind.
Yes.
The issues at Ashton are not necessarily the same issues that we have here at Broadoak, and it isn't a case of one size fits all. So I would want to sit with Brian and discuss some of the issues that we have, some of the directions that we want to take, which are separate and different, and that gives us the opportunity to do that.
Community cohesion,
Right.
I think, is on the agenda.
It is.
Nationally.
Yep.
What I'd like to do, talking to Taryn, Andy and yourself, is appoint a governor at each school to look at cohesion, diversity,
Right.
bullying
Yeah.
policies.
Good.
And that,
The same person across both schools? Or
no,
two different
no,
ones?
two different governors.
Right.
I think it's quite a large subject. With a federation, the workload obviously increases, and it increases for key people. But I think that busy people quickly absorb additional work, and our governors have relished the challenge.
The federated schools will share the use of a new building currently being constructed.
There you go, very fetching. Come on, miss, let's go.
Parent Governor Kath Bloomfield, whose background is in the design of school buildings, has agreed to use her expertise to help keep the project on track and report back to the federated body's finance committee.
It was a bit daunting at first, the thought of doing a federation, because I don't think any of us were really sure how it would work. Looking after two lots of schools' budgets and curriculum and personnel is quite a large responsibility. We're still on programme for the 14th of December. Is that the original target date?
That's original target date. We slipped a little bit of time on the phase one, but we've put a recovery strategy in place now.
We're quite a large governing body with some very, very good people on it, and between us all at all of the various committee meetings, I think it's pulled together really well. Classrooms look great. We went into phase 2 as well. Obviously there's a lot of work going on in there at the moment, but we have also got the plan of how they're going to recover the 2 weeks from the summer to get phase 2 back on track, ready for the 14th of December.
I would say to any school or schools looking to federate, look at the strengths, look at the weaknesses, look at the opportunities and look at the threats. But look at keeping everybody on side. Governors, parents, teachers, go through the consultation, tell them the positives and how you can build, you can share best practice. In this economic climate, we're all looking to save money. The economies of scale and the monies to be saved are immense.